Hey everybody, welcome to Goshen Prepping on YouTube. Why do I stress that? Because if you didn't know, YouTube is on the internet, it's electronic, and if the grid goes down, EMP, all that, YouTube is gone. So I'll say first off, hopefully you're keeping a binder and making notes and printing out things and doing all this, because if the internet and the power grid goes down for 3 years, which very well could happen, you want to be able to have this information. Now, who has time for taking notes? How about we buy books? I'm going to go through some books, some how-to books that should be in your library. And I have so many how-to books, but these ones really reign at the top. Now, I'll put links below for these, the ones that are on Amazon, by the way. But it's not about necessarily buying from Amazon. It's so you can get the ISB numbers and stuff. What I suggest you do is go to Amazon, see how much it is, $20, and then go to a site called abebooks.com. It stands for Advanced Book Exchange, and that's actually the place where all booksellers go to sell their books for used, and you can find them sometimes at a fraction of the price. Okay, so anyway, let's go through these books, some how-to books, and I have a few different categories. First off, when we talk about like just survival and bushcraft, there's a couple books I want to recommend. The first one is called Mears Essential Bushcraft. It's a neat book. It's not necessarily quite up my alley. I'm kind of like a raw figures data kind of person, but this book is excellent for, I mean, it does have information obviously on here, but it definitely shows you a lot of pictures and gets into like really showing you the graphics of how to do a lot of things, which I'm not saying is bad. It's just not my cup of tea as far as the pictures go, but obviously sometimes it's essential. So there's the first one. If you don't have this book, it really shows you all kinds of skills from all around the world, by the way, to be able to try to just survive. With that in mind, the next book, which if you have a bug out bag, you should have this in your bug out bag, by the way, it's an essential one, the SAS Survival Guide. And I'm sure even showing this, there's a lot of people out there saying, oh yeah, I have this book. This thing's amazing. First off, being nice and small, it packs a punch, has everything in here. All the pictures are very just basic drawings to show you how to do things. It is an essential book to basically take with you in case you need to survive off the land. Hopefully that won't happen. But either way, even if you have like kind of a homestead or some property you go to, it's helpful. Now with that, we'll get into talking about animals and such. And we have the Barnyard Homestead Kitchen Know-How. And this is neat because it's not simply just like recipes like you might think, field to table cooking skills. It's not just about cooking, but it's about butchering. It's about plants, how long to put them in the ground for. It talks about pressure canners. It talks about preservations. It talks about, you name it. It is really a comprehensive book that talks about everything that you were looking at as far as in your kitchen itself. Now, it does say from field to table, and it does talk about some butchering in there. That's good. But if we're going to talk about animal butchering, I recommend the basic butchering of livestock and game. This is the one I use, by the way, when I hunt on my property and I get some deer. It literally goes through all the main different types of animals you'll butcher, and it gives a detailed blow of how to basically do everything from start to finish in butchering those animals. It is a fantastic book. And if you're not really too familiar with hunting, familiar is a good word, I would get this. Now, again, YouTube does have some videos on this, which is good. But again, if YouTube goes down, you don't have that. This is a really good book to fall back on. All right. Continuing on with animal butchering and such, and gardening too, we have the Julia Rothman collection. This is a great book set. There's 3 books. The books are Farm Anatomy, Nature Anatomy, and Food Anatomy. And these are similar to that butchering book, except is a lot more exhaustive, talking about all kinds of different types of fun ways to look things for like animals. If you want an animal for your place, you're going to start talking about self-sufficiency. What kind of chickens do you want? Horses, sheep, the parts of the sheep, etc. Nature Anatomy, which is just really fun stuff, talks about all the different things you can find in the woods to eat, animals, bugs to stay away from. Just really good series to show a lot of things. And then we have Food Anatomy, and it talks about all the different types of things you can eat, from mushrooms to foraging, etc. But you know, it's put in a fun way, a lot of like comic book way, if you want to put it that way, to make it just really fun. Okay, then we're going to get to the ultimate set. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, oh, the ultimate set is the Foxfire Set. Yeah, the Foxfire Set's amazing, and I'm not discounting that. But it's also amazingly priced if you can find it in stock, because sometimes you can't. Instead, there's another set, in my opinion, that's more inexpensive, it's cheaper, and is more exhaustive than Foxfire. And it's the Wisdom and Know-How set. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but you can buy these individually, like on Amazon or AB Books. You don't have to buy the whole set. But here's woodworking. I mean, how many are going to be doing a lot of woodworking when the crap hits the fan? Maybe if we go back to an agrarian society and where it's like Little House on the Prairie, sure. But let me get ready for this. I hope you have some glasses, because the wording in this, I mean, this is a thick book. It goes into absolute detail how to do everything when it comes to woodworking. But that's the woodworking one. We also have an entire book. Again, look how thick this is. Survival wisdom and know-how. Has everything in here. Stats and data and figures and wind speeds and holy cow. I mean, this really is the ultimate authority when it comes to being able to survive after crap hits the fan. We also have one for gardening wisdom and know-how. Everything about gardening you can think of. It talks about every single type of plant, every way to plant it, and it goes through showing everything from germination of the seeds to collecting seeds to obviously getting the best harvest you can. This is a great one, by the way. Country wisdom and know-how. This one's good because, you know, in our modern times, unfortunately, if you're like me, my parents didn't hand down anything to do out in the country. My grandpa was a farmer, but apparently when they took this information and didn't get to my parents didn't give it to me. And so all those old school ways that have been lost by most society, I know a lot of you out there still know these old school ways, is in this book. But again, I mean, look how detailed this is. And this is just one page out of, and this is typical for these, 450 plus pages of information. Again, I like Foxfire, but these ones are so incredibly exhaustive and works amazing as references to be able to survive. Country wisdom. We also have natural healing wisdom, which this one got a little butchered. I don't know what's going on there. But this is another big book, 484 pages on this one, and it goes through anything when we talk about like holistic approaches to medicine, which I'm all into. Really cool stuff. Herbs, talks about places, first aid, reflexology, which I know nothing about, but it's still pretty cool. Flowers and oils, etc. So there's another one, natural healing wisdom. And then finally, you know, if we completely lose every type of manufacturing known to mankind, we can get into craft wisdom and know-how. And it goes into how to make things. You know, people didn't used to go to Walmart to pick up stuff from China, but instead it actually has every single craft and how to make every single thing you need. There's candles. Obviously some of the stuff's artistic, but obviously has a lot of practical stuff too. Stained glassing, we see knitting, we see knots, we see, okay, the list goes on and on, you get it. Craft, wisdom, and know-how. But, I mean, obviously I could have picked a whole bunch of different books to add to my list for just simple, good old know-how to do things. And no matter what books you have or no matter what books you choose, make sure you have an essential library set aside. Even if you don't access it often right now, because you do go to YouTube or whatever the case may be, have it there as a reference. Because I'm afraid, I mean, I really don't think an EMP is like a huge possibility. I mean, it is a possibility, but I don't know about a huge probability. But if it does happen, kiss YouTube goodbye. Kiss electronics goodbye. You know, if we see the grid go down for any reason, we're talking about possibly, you ready for this? Years without the internet. Are you going to be able to survive without the internet? All these books are great reference materials in case that happens. But again, I'll put a link below for all these. Check them out. You can also see them on ABE Books and start stocking up. In the meantime, put in the description below what books you like. What books do you have would be a great addition to this collection. Thanks for watching.